to the Haven Hang. I am Camille Thurman, and today we are in for a treat because I'm honored to be joined by the great Dianne Reeves. She is one of my favorite artists in the world. She's a hero. She's been like a mentor and angel any and every time I have had questions about anything, life, you name it. And I'm really thrilled and honored to be joined with her by her today. So please give it a warm welcome to the great Dianne Reeves. Hi, Dianne.
Hey everyone. Hi, sweetie. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. My favorite thing is going on right now. It's raining, so I'm really happy. I come alive in the rain.
Yeah, me too. I love it when it rains here, especially in the spring and summertime, just because you get to just hear and see everything just kind of purge away and smell the new fresh air coming in.
Yeah, that fresh air is something else.
I'm just going to fix something real quick because I want to make sure that people are able to see you.
Okay.
Let's see if I can make this pen.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Okay, there we go.
all right.
Cool. So we're able to have all three. All right. So, this is the Haven Hang, and the purpose of having the Haven Hang is to create a space where young women can receive advice and just hear it straight from people who have already been doing it, who are respected artists, and help them to kind of figure out how to start the journey and get good advice on how to develop as an artist, but also to develop as a young woman. So,
Mhm.
my first question to you is, in the beginning, who were the people that got you inspired and fired up about this music?
I would have to say my family. My family was everything to me because there were a lot of musicians in the family, but everybody loved music. It was a multi-generational, you know, atmosphere, and everybody was just really into all kinds of wonderful music. And so um, that was like the beginning because there was so much joy surrounding music.
Hmm. And do you have any particular memories from childhood that really got you fired up about the music? Like, this is my heart.
When we were like, I was like in Denver, I was like the first group of students that began busing here in Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sent out way out south. I didn't even know that the city was that big. And we go way out south to this, newly built school. And, it was all of us from this north side and Park Hill going out there. And there were a lot of young teachers, but there was one teacher in particular that her name is Benny Williams, and she taught choir. And she was from Texas and had just moved to Denver. And given what the atmosphere was around, a lot of things were very racially charged. It was a lot of protesting, a lot of things were going on at that time. She decided to gather, like in choir room is always a sacred place, gather all the students together and, you know, let us do the music that was really inspiring us at the time. And at that time, a lot of the music was about what was going on, so you had all of this great information coming out of the airways. And so we put together this show. And at that time, Edwin Hawkins Singers had just come out with Oh Happy Day. And
Yeah.
I mean, that record resonated, all over the world. I mean, it was just something about it, about a hymn that was written, I think like in the 1600s or something. And he took it and redid it. It was a very old hymn. And so anyway, we were doing it, and she gave me Aretha Franklin's. No, she gave another young lady Aretha Franklin's "In the Spirit in the Dark," and
Mm.
that was my favorite song. And so my friend knew it, so we were out in the hallway, And Miss Williams at that time didn't really know that I could sing. I was taking piano lessons from her. And so then I was teaching the girl how to sing it. And everybody was like, she was like, well, who's that out there singing? And they were like, that's Dianne, Miss Williams, you know. So that was like kind of how it got started. And
Wow.
from going back to the Edwin Hawkins record, there was another song on that record called Joy. That song just used to I love that song. So I learned it. And that was actually the first song that I sang on stage. And it felt so powerful because I was singing something that I guess I needed, something that I believed in, something that, you know, really resonated with me. At the same time, the response of the audience was, I had never felt that before. And that's when I was all the way in. So I was about 12.
Wow, that's amazing
Mhm.
that you were able to experience that at such a young age because there's something powerful about being able to give and dig into yourself and just purely pour out that gift, but then instantaneously realize that there's people receiving on the other end and being healed, and it's like a feedback that goes back and forth. And I'm sure it must have been a powerful feeling at
Yeah,
12.
it was like a high. It was like, it was something that I found myself looking for, you know, and and wanting to experience
Yeah.
for every time I hit the stage. That first experience, I guess, it's just like you just never forget it.
Yeah, you never do forget it. I always feel like you're always trying to chase for that every time.
Yeah,
Not that you're expecting it every time. I mean, of course, you're open because you're receiving what's happening at the moment and you're taking it in and processing, but just that fire to chase after it every
right. You
time.
know,
Yeah.
or just that little bit of, like I always say, I'm a curious spirit child that fell through a crack of lightning. But the thing is, like, just to see that little crack, and I've had many cracks like that, where, you know, you look in and you go, oh, there's something else there, you know. I felt that way the first time I heard Betty Carter. I mean, it was like a religious experience, you know. But sometimes you see things that in your soul, or you feel things that are like in your soul and inside you, you respond to in a way that is beyond words. And
Yeah.
I've had many of those times in my life.
Yeah. It's beautiful to be able to experience those kind of experiences. So, when you started singing, when was the moment that you decided, I'm gonna take the leap of faith and do this as my passion and my career?
When I was After that experience at 12, because my grandmother used to always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And
Hmm.
I remember walking down the hall saying, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. So, I mean, I made my mind up real early, and, you know, started, you know, working and doing things, you know, from that point on. You know, I have, like, my uncle is a great classical bassist, but also a wonderful jazz bassist. And at that time, you know, there was a pretty nice little club scene, jazz scene. And there was this wonderful woman pianist by the name of Louise Duncan,
Mm.
just extraordinary. And he would take me down to this place called Lafitte's to go listen to her. And she would play and invite me always to come up and sing a song, you know.
Yeah,
And so it was just being invited in those spaces by people that were masterful at what they were doing, but also generous in, you know, in trying to bring you along if they saw the interest and the possibility.
yeah. Wow. I wanted to ask you, did you have any of those kind of experiences with any artists as you started taking that path of being a young artist and going out and to see how all of this worked, the getting out there and getting working and then being able to see people like Betty and whatnot? Did you have any of those
Oh, it was rich. I mean, okay, so when I was living in Los Angeles,
experiences?
everybody, there was this club called the Parisian Room,
Hmm.
and Vi Red ran the jam session.
You saw Red?
Oh yeah.
Red?
And so I remember the first time I went to the jam session, They didn't know me, and I went there, and I couldn't get on the list. So I was like, well, when does the list start? So finally, I came like 2 hours before the thing started, so my name would be. And finally, she looked at me, little old, and like, little old girl, who are you? You know, you just keep coming back. And I was like, I really want to sing, and I can. And I was telling her, you know, that I knew Clark Terry and and Louis Belson because I had been working with them. And she's like, okay. And I did the jam session like weekly after that with her, and she was just wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah, and she had a son, Charles Meeks, who also played in my band.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't find out about Violet until I was in I think I was in high school. I saw a video of her performing with the Count Basie Orchestra, and I just
Mhm.
like, wow, she's amazing and she's incredible. And I
Yeah.
figure out how I can find out more. And then years later, I ended up working with Bertha Hope. And in Bertha Hope, she told me, she was like, "Oh yeah, but the first person I ever worked with was Vi Red. She hired me, and
Wow.
gave me her phone number. And I remember calling her, and I can't. I wish I could remember what the conversation was about. I should have recorded it, but it was just such an honor to finally get to talk to her because um, it was just amazing to me that she could do both. And I had never seen anybody in my life sing and play like that,
Hmm.
a woman. So
Yeah.
it
When
was,
I saw you, that's the first. She was like the first person I thought about.
oh, wow.
Hmm. I was
What was,
like, oh, she's coming in that tradition. I love it.
yep. What was she like?
Just really down to earth, really beautiful. Sometimes we later on we did the Playboy Festival. She would always be, always hang out, always encouraging and just down to earth, really sweet.
Yeah.
And I used to just like, I would just be in awe of her. But most of the times I saw her, it was in spaces where she was, like with at the Parisian Room, making a space for young artists or artists to come and hang out. And at that club, you were asking me, did I see a lot of people?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would go to that club and work out their stuff before they went on tour. So it
Mm,
was nothing to go. I saw Carmen McRae. I saw Sarah Vaughan there.
oh,
Um, just all kinds of musicians. And then when in the mid 80s, I moved to New York and I never stayed at home. I was in every club because Sweet Basil's Dakota Staten would have a certain night that she would be performing there. And,
yeah.
I'd run up to McHale's and there would be McCoy Tyner, and then sitting in with him would be Phyllis Hyman. And it was just like unreal to be able to see, the Jazz Messengers and all of the, and then at the Village Gate, they used to have, this Latin night. It was so much. And I went everywhere. I just left the house and didn't come back until I just couldn't no more. Listening to people that I had records, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, mhm.
Did you have any experiences of getting to sit in with them or make music with them?
Yeah. A lot of times, like I would go down to, I'm trying to think of this. Oh God, I can't think of the name. It'll come to me. But I remember it's where I met Paquito de Rivera, and he would like um he was there. He would have me sit in, and when I would have certain gigs, Dizzy would come down. He would sit in. I did a thing at the Montreux Festival with Dizzy and Carmen. I mean, just and almost like not being able to, being in so much, being like starstruck so much, almost couldn't even open my mouth. But they were just generous like that. Go down to, there was a club in Los Angeles that Freddie Hubbard would be playing. I would go and sit in with him. At the time, my pianist Billy Childs, my friend, was playing with him. I mean, people just always invite you to their stage. Joe Zawinul, everybody, because they were right there in the city.
And that's so beautiful that that environment existed at that time. I always wish I was like a fly on the wall during that time just to see everything.
It was really rich. It was very rich. And there was no night that there wasn't somebody to go see.
Mm. Could I ask you what was Carmen like?
Oh, Carmen was very, very straightforward, especially watching her, with her band. I mean, she was one of those singers that stood in the band, listened to everything, and would correct you loudly on stage. But the other thing about it, she was also somebody who loved to just sit down and talk and, just be with you. She was easy to be around. And so when I would go and see her at the Parisian Room, a lot of times she would come off and, a lot of times nobody would go backstage. They would just come and, sit out because it would be a bunch of friends. It was a local neighborhood type club.
Mm-hmm.
And she would just hang out and talk. And more than anything, I would be watching, just like, oh, okay, she does this. And she, more
Yeah.
because, I mean, I didn't really have I didn't want to, I didn't really have a lot to say, but I was just like allowed to be in the presence and privy to conversation and character and all that kind of stuff. And I loved it.
Yeah.
So delightful.
Wow. I remember talking with Harold Mayburn one time, and he was telling me about Carmen McRae because I think it was a Hundred Fingers in Jazz or something like that. It was like a concert
Mm-hmm.
tour they were doing with all these 10 amazing pianists. And he was telling me how Carmen came in the room and he was like, man, I was scared of Carmen because she could
Yeah.
play her behind off and
Yes, she could. And
BS.
would sit down at the Parisian Room, play all the time. It was just like, oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. If you could if you could put it to words, what were artists like Carmen and Betty and Vi and so many others, what's the first thing you could think of that kind of really stood out to you as an artist? Like, wow, that's something that I want to chase after or try to figure out how I could develop in my own artistry. It could be anything.
I think the biggest thing is that all of them were very comfortable
Mm,
in the way they dealt with the music. I mean, no inhibitions. They were very, it was beyond confidence.
yeah,
And it was also, they were all original, you know. None of them sounded like each other, but they loved each other. And they could could all sing the same song and it would just have a totally different meaning, approach, everything, and
yeah,
they were very always say that they lived at a time of black and white, yes or no, nothing in between. And they created a path of, choices and maybes and let me think about it for the next generation. But they were very, very clear about how they wanted to do things, the way they wanted to do things, and excellent in executing anything that they did.
it's funny you say that because I see that in you. I mean, seriously, a lot of times I talk with some of my friends who are artists, and when we think of artists today that kind of have that example of being very clear, very um, forward, and very brave to just take chances and leaps and be limitless. Your name always comes up because
Wow.
that's what you represent to us.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Wow. So,
That's good to know.
yeah, no, seriously, because a lot of times, like, I'll find myself in conversations with my friends. I mean, Charnay's on here, but she'll tell you too. We'll have conversations just about conceptually, what are we trying to develop? What are we trying to look for? How, even
Mm-hmm,
down to the music that we prepare, the choices of the songs that we choose, the style and the way we present them, and even
mm-hmm,
how we present and carry ourselves, literally, as
mm-hmm.
women. And you are like one of the examples, the biggest examples of today that we have that's close to what you said for yourself was Betty and Carmen. And people, we're taking note.
Wow. Well, they were the shining examples, and it was like, I would look at them and I say, oh, that's how you have to be, you
Yeah.
know, you know. So that was like, you know, you knew how to approach them, you knew how to be in their space, and then you knew also how to try on their shoes a little bit to see how that felt on the other side, and it always worked, because one of the things, all of them, when they walked into a room, all of them, I mean, it just, it's like they're here, their presence is like huge, and they might just be sauntering in and go to the side or something, but it didn't make a difference. They
Yeah.
were powerful.
Yeah. Very powerful. So for you in developing and nurturing your craft, how did you find that balance of finding yourself as an artist, but then also as a woman in this business too?
I come from really, really strong women. That part, women who would, speak loudly and clearly and, let you know what needs to be done, how it needed to be done. So I saw that,
Hmm.
so they gave me a lot of courage, I'll put it that way, to go into the world, because I left home when I was about 19 years old and moved out to Los Angeles. But but then once you start experiencing life on your, it's like you don't know all the twists and turns that, happen out there.
Right.
And but being able to have people like them to be able to call on, they were there. I remember there were a lot of collect calls, like this is happening, or having cousins and, older cousins and my sister, so that part helped me to really navigate the world. I think the thing that gave me freedom is I came right in to listening to music. My sister is 10 years older than me, and I thought she had the most sophisticated tastes in music. And but the interesting thing was, it was like almost there was like an explosion of creativity in the late 60s and early 70s, where people were just experimenting and now traveling and working with musicians from all over the world. So the music, had all kinds of amazing elements, and here was this jazz music that was right in the center of all that. You're watching, all the great R&B singers and performers, and all of them, every band was different. They had a different approach, difference. It was all about your sound, it was that
Hmm.
kind of thing. And I think that was for me the greatest inspiration, because basically what they were saying is, come with your own stuff. You got to create your own voice, Um, and you would hear things like, I always say this, you would hear, like, I remember Barbra Streisand came out with The Way We Were, and then Gladys Knight did it. And
Yeah.
it just like, it was like, what? And living here in Denver, we have this amphitheater called Red Rocks. And then going up there and hearing, the Headhunters live now, we tore up the record. But now to hear how this music moves live, and it was very, it was complex music, but people were very active in their listening,
Yeah.
and so all of that kind of stuff, the nuance and all that kind of stuff was applauded. And, you know, people's like, did you hear that? And, all that kind of stuff. So, and that was before I think the record industry really tried to come up with some sort of way to control the sound. It
Mm.
was really exciting at that time, because you didn't think about genres. I didn't even know that word then. You just thought about what you liked.
Yeah.
So if you listen to Crosby, Stills, and Nash, then you turn around and listen to the Isley Brothers like the other night, they did some Summer Breeze, and it was like you like both of them,
Yeah.
Um, and I remember, and seeing Ella, swinging all the Beatles tunes. Like, I was like, did they know that they could do this, that these songs could do that? So people took chances, and they were just into everything. And that was the most, when people say, well, what inspired you the most? It was the late 60s, early 70s.
Mm. Do you see any differences? I mean, of course, you have it compared to what the time that you're talking about then and now. What are your reflections and observations on that?
Well, you know, I have this thing about albums, people would put together albums so that you could hear their complete voice, one song to the next, and gave great thought in how they would program the records,
Hmm.
and so that you could just move through. And, you know, so you never, you might have your favorite song, but you listen to the whole voice. And that kind of gets me now, because somebody can put a whole thing out, and you can pick something on Spotify that's being streamed and not really have the full impact of the entire presentation, and I think that's important. I thought that when Marvin Gaye did the What's Going On album, I always think about what would that have been like if it came out here, because it was just continuous music, so how would you break that up, because you wanted to hear all the interludes between songs.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it needs to be like that. you know but and the other thing is, uh people, like, when I would do studio work early on, um you could sing you had to sing everything, or you had to be able to play everything. So you'd have, you know, bass player that, just did an R&B thing and then went and did a Brazilian session. I mean, and killed it. It wasn't like Brazilian like, it was that because they had immersed themselves in the culture and the music. And so people played everything. So when you would be on stage, sometimes those were like colors. Like for me, because of all the music that I heard, from night to night, we do an arrangement of a song, and it would basically be a sketch, because um, if I started singing a certain rhythm, then this song is going to go, and people had no problem, like, really, experimenting and taking music to other places. And so, I love that. I don't see a lot of that now, but that's like really, really special to me. I remember a friend of mine, I was trying to tell him, I was like, well, I was explaining how I wanted it. I won't say his name. And he said to me, oh, like the 80s? I said, yeah, but I'm not going to complete the rest of the sentence. I was like, yeah, exactly. you know
Oh man. So we get questions all the time from young artists, and one of the questions we get frequently is when you're developing as a young artist, how do you find pieces that are right for you? And how
Mm,
do you develop a repertoire that basically reflects who you are, or that what you want to project as an artist, artist. How was your process with that, or could you give any advice on
mm.
one
Well,
more?
when I first started off singing, I was very much into my instrument, you know, because you listen to early recordings, my voice was so high. And, I just loved, doing vocal acrobatics. As a matter of fact, Betty and Carmen called me on that. But anyway, I was just flexing my instrument. And it wasn't really until, I started, working with, other people, or really, really, I think the beginning of it, I'll put it this way. I went on tour with Harry Belafonte. And at that time, right before that, I had a group with Billy Childs and all of us, and we would go, and like we would boldly go where nobody had gone before. Our whole thing was about improvising and just going out there and finding stuff. But when I got with Harry, the emphasis was on the words.
Hmm.
And the kind of music that we did, the music had all kinds of meanings, because some of them were protest songs. Some of them, were, songs that talked about, I remember we did this song called the Zambezi River. And, the lyrics was so beautiful that I had never seen it, but I thought I had through singing the song. And that's when words started to really, really, mean a lot to me.
Right.
And I started realizing how powerful they could be and are. And then I started to come up with this idea that it's like, oh, all those songs that I loved and listened to growing up that, inspired me, those words were the things that, were filling my spirit. And so all of, after I worked with him for 3 years, but everything just kind of changed. And I had done other things that that meant a lot to me, but not with the consciousness that I had after working with him. And then, my whole everything changed, because everybody has something that, informs them. And that's the thing to me, that is your voice.
Right.
That's the thing that you express yourself through, and it doesn't necessarily need your instrument to do it. There are other ways in which to do it. Some people sing, play, write, cook, sew, their voice is broad.
Yeah.
And so I always tell young people that one of the things is that there's nobody in the world that is like you. So you get to start off authentic, and you get to start off new. And that's the thing that you have to pay attention to, and to develop how you choose things, how you wish to move through this world, and how you wish to express what you are feeling and seeing in this world through your art. And
Yeah.
that's always going to be unique.
Yeah. And when you think of the greatest artists, that's what they did. All of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So we have a question from one uh, viewer, and it's about self-care and being on a road. One on one. How do you do that?
Woo! Well, thank God you can learn when you're young, you know, and you have to like pay attention to stuff. Because when I first went out on the road, I was just like, oh, I was losing my voice constantly, just over singing, trying to sing, loud, and, and I remember one time I heard Luther Vandross talk about singing, and how he only would sing at a certain place. And if you can't hear me, you playing too loud. I was like, that's powerful, you know. So as I started to, look at my instrument, and not wanting to keep going to the hospital and having vocal doctors give you steroids so that you could make it through, and being fearful that, you were just going to oversing and blow something. And thank God, it was in my younger days when my voice is like, it's going out now, but anyway, my voice could handle it. And so I just started taking notes and started realizing what I could and could not do, you know. And one of the things was, the biggest thing was sleep. If I didn't sleep, I didn't have a voice. You know, I knew what I could and could not drink. I knew when I could eat and when I couldn't. I mean, I just started really finding all of these places that really disturbed my instrument.
Mm.
And I just took note, because other people could do it, but I couldn't. So, and then I stopped hollering in other rooms. I mean, it's just all kind of stuff. And also staying very, very supported in speaking,
Right.
at all times, And the cool thing about that, is you always pulling in. So them, those, that diaphragm, that's them stomach, that a lot of your times your stomach will go flat just from, keeping yourself, up and tight and lifted.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so it was just all of these kind of things that throughout the years. But the the biggest thing that had an impact on me is peacefulness.
Mm,
You know, peace is very important. And so I started to surround myself with people that I just knew that everybody was in the same place about that. So it was, mature people that we could talk things out when stuff went down, and realizing that one of the things that keeps business together is taking care of your business first so that the music can flourish.
right.
So so I always try to be clear and fair and create this space, because for me the stage is a sacred place, and I just don't want that kind of stuff on it. So I went about working and finding ways to keep peace around my life
Yeah.
for the sake of my voice, and that's all self-care.
That's so true, and that's some powerful advice, especially for young artists, because we don't realize going on to that stage, like you said, it is sacred. Because first off, so many people made the way for us to be able to do it. We can never take it for granted. And then secondly, you realize everything outside of that is just, it doesn't matter, because you have people that are coming to hear you, that are coming to have their hearts filled and to be
And
nurtured.
it's your platform
That's
that you can dictate how it can be at any moment.
that's
And that's a powerful place. All eyes on you, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's a very powerful place. Yeah. Oh man, I love you.
I
So
love you back.
I can't wait to finally be able to see you in person.
Whew.
So we had a question from a viewer, and her question was, "How do you pick the right band? How do you pick the right people to work with you?" And perform?
Ooh, I just think that is I've through the years, people who felt what I was doing would come to me, or I would see somebody, always just connecting.
Hmm.
No specific, um, you know, the things that I looked for was like, I knew that, personalities in a band, musical personalities in a band is so important. Everybody has their harmonic and rhythmic and all, their vocabulary that they've developed, and how that works, in a band has always been magic to me, because I think that every player that I've ever had, they bring something that I always walk away with more, you
Mm.
know, because of how they see the music. So I want to be able to be with people who are really into, that kind of coming together and with ideas and creating a hybrid of something. So a lot of the music, ends up being very, very organic on stage because of that. And because when you know each other's voices, then you can do all kinds of different things. It doesn't have to be the one way that you would do it last night, and maybe this night I'm just going to do it with my bass player. Or maybe this night I'm going to sing it a cappella, and create a whole nother vibe, and everybody knows what the structure of the song is like, and we'll find it together. I like people that are really, really courageous in that area of being free to come up and dig up, ideas in the moment. Because that's what to me makes the music alive.
Yeah, it does. And when you know you could trust that band and that they have you, if you to take a leap of faith and just fall, bam, they got.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question, this is actually from Sharonay. What was one of the most valuable things you learned from watching, talking, and interacting with Carmen?
Oh God. Well, I'm just gonna say it. She just didn't take, she don't take no shit, because she just wasn't about that.
Yeah.
She just wasn't about that. And like when I said, she said something about, because I like long vamps at the end of songs and stuff, because I just like that. And
Yeah.
she would say, one time she said, "Oh, it's like a vocal fest at the end," but it was like she was telling me something. And I just went, and I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to her and Betty too. Me
Mm.
and Betty had very interesting conversations, but but about why I did that, and we just laughed. She understood it. She understood, and liked the fact that I could um, tell her why. That it wasn't just a thing. It is just, this is what I do and why I see it in this kind of way. It's a kind of freedom for me.
Yeah. I'm
So, but the biggest thing is she was strong. She just, no, she was fun, but from the opportunities that I had to be around her, but very clear, you
mm,
know. And so, you knew how to kind of come to her.
yeah. You come to you have to come correct. No
Right.
come to play. Yeah. And I just want to ask because it's my own personal question. Can you talk about Betty?
Oh, well, I remember I had a band back in the day. This was Billy Childs, and we had this group. And but what the other thing that we would do is, like, if somebody was in town, as a group we would go and listen to them.
Hmm.
So my drummer, Joy Heredia, at the time, he said, "Dianne," and I was at home. He said, "Come down here to Hop Sings," which was like 15 miles from where I live. He said, "Come down here. There's this lady singing, and you gotta see her. It's something about her. You just gotta see her." So I missed the first set of the first night, but I got there for the second set. And I remember seeing her. I think it was Curtis Lundy, I know, was on bass. And
Mm.
I keep wanting to say Mulgrew, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I had to ask Billy because he remembers. But anyway, I just remember this woman standing on the stage with a blinding light
Mm.
and singing over songs in a way that I had never ever experienced. But at the same time, there was something about her that I recognized. And that's what, it's like, like I recognized her because it was like we know all the colors, everybody knows, but when you see a new color
Hmm.
that you've always seen but had no words to, you can't say it's green or blue, or it's just something different that doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
then you finally see that thing in somebody, and you like go, "I know that thing," you know.
Yeah.
And so every night I was there from that point on. She did 6 nights till I saw 11 of the 12 shows. And then from there, like, she would come and do other gigs. And Aura, who used to work with her, said, um, Betty would say, "That girl's out there." Finally, we had the opportunity to work together on Javon Jackson's record. She produced him, and he asked me would I be on it, and he said that Betty was producing. I was like, "Yeah," you know. So I had done this. So we got on, and I mean, it was. She was more like checking me out. We didn't really have a deep conversation at that time.
Hmm.
But then I put out this record called Art and Survival, and I did this rendition of Body and Soul.
Mm.
And she called me on it. She called me and said that she thought that it was an angry version, you know.
Huh.
And so I was like, "Oh boy," because and I mean, when I say come hard, she came hard. I mean, it was enough. We're on the phone. And I said, "No." I said, "Basically, I'm owning my feelings, just
Mm.
like I've watched you do." You
Mm.
know? And she said, I said, you gave me license to do that. You know, I said, this is the way that I see this song. You know, this is what, you know, I hold inside and what I want to shout out and get rid of, because I was in a place then, you know, you just have to tell on it, because I had, you know, I suffered from depression, and so I found that the best way for me to get rid of it was to tell on it, and I would be loud about it. I would tell somebody like, I'm in this place and this is how I'm feeling, and it's not good and it's dark, and I would just say it, and somehow it would, like, whatever that thing was, it would just kind of start to dissipate. But that's how I've always kind of dealt. And
Mm.
so we were talking about that. And then she was like, oh, okay. I yeah. She said, I'm gonna go back and listen to it again. I was like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that, you know. Um, and she did. And, you know, and from that point on, anytime that I would see her, we always, you know, I was always able to go back and hang out with her backstage and, you know, just be around her, um, and just see her, you know, and how she even worked with her musicians. I mean, she was a school,
Yeah.
and a lot of the musicians that she trained ended up in my band.
Wow.
You know, I worked with several musicians that came out of Betty. So, you know, that I used to always say, wow, you
That's
know,
a gift.
that's a powerful thing, you know. And
Yeah.
she had this way, you know, of being able to, you know, work with people and work with young people. And she gave you that whole thing of this music is alive when she was on, because it was never going to be the same, and how to listen to one another and intuit, and how to, you know, and know that she was the central figure, but she was also somebody that wanted to co-create on stage, which is a powerful thing.
Right. Yeah, I would always take that away from watching her concerts. It was one concert in particular where she was singing Giant Steps with Jerry Allen on piano.
Carry out, yeah.
Yeah, and the band was just so killing, but the way she just came out, it was just like, I'm in this music. I'm all in it, all around
Yes,
it, all through it. I am 1,000% all up in this music.
right,
And I never really had seen anything like that before I saw that video. And I was just like, that's it. That's the goal, because
right,
we are the music. We are part of the music. We are
yes.
and we are with the band like this. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, she, in seeing her, that's how I understood how to develop a band, just watching her.
Yeah.
Because now, I mean, even where I stand in the band, even all of, but more than anything, that the band has to know that, you know, you are not playing behind me, we are playing together.
Hmm.
And to cease to look at me as the vocalist in front, and see me as the musician in the middle, and
Right.
that this is how we're creating. And that, you know, gives people freedom to move and do things that, you know, is really special. And that's why I think that, you know, her music was so powerful, that she had this, um, relationship with time, be
Yeah.
it very fast or very slow. She had this relationship with time that was, you know, otherworldly.
Yeah. And even her phrasing, she could just float.
Yeah. I tried doing, I remember that right after that concert I saw her, we went to go do, The Man I Love, and I counted this slow ass tempo. I
Oh
mean, it
my
was
God.
slow. And, you know, like I was going to sing over the top. You know, I had seen her, you know, how she, you know, you would think,
Yeah.
no, they're not with her. But yeah, you know,
Yeah.
shoot, when I got finished with that, the man I love couldn't find me and I couldn't find him.
Ah!
But we were in a place where we could experiment like that. And I just continued on, because it was like, wow, this is this relationship with time and space and silence
Mm-hmm.
and placement, you
Yeah.
know, was just, she was just really masterful at that.
And even her storytelling. Like, can we talk it over? Like, can we
Right.
like
Yes.
even though she's singing, it sounds like she's speaking to you.
Yeah, yeah, she embodies the song. And that same kind of thing is what I try to work with students about. It's like, when you think about, the phrasing of a song, all the great singers that you hear how they phrase a thing, if you listen to them, sometimes that's how they talk.
Yeah.
That's how they move. And so, that's why it's so unique with everybody. And I try to get singers was like, okay, just say the words like you talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you feel the music underneath it? I remember, Joni Mitchell, one time I heard her on this radio interview, and she was talking about how, she heard the words a certain way. And the music was only there
Mm.
to help, color the emotion or the subtext, of what it was she was saying. So that's why, these harmonies move in these really wonderful ways, because it was about getting at something,
Yeah.
that she needed, to make herself and her sound and her words ring, So I try to tell people, it's like, okay, we got all this theory. It's really, really wonderful, and you have to know it so that you can, be able to communicate with people. But the other thing is, this theory was built off of things that people did.
Yeah.
So, be about creating something somebody has to write some, a way to do things, to find things. So be free, because once again, there's nobody like you.
That's right. That's right. Ah. So we had another question, and this was a question about how did you learn the business?
The hard way. No. It's really, fortunately, I had people in the business, like with my cousin George Duke. That made a difference. I had people that I could get to, or that he had that I could go to.
Mm.
But, a lot of times it was just in in the very beginning, it was my instinct. And I just realized the power of my signature, that it could empower somebody else or it could empower me, you know. So I was really, really clear about where I'm going to sign my name or what I'm going to do, or maybe I want to do this and I'm going to figure out a way to get around all of that, looking at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and her not signing the contract. I could totally relate to that, because when you don't know, you don't want to act like because then you'll be the biggest fool.
That's right.
So, the the thing was just more than anything, being able to be around people, and there were a lot of places where you could go, and take classes and learn, because it was about the business, and LA was about the business. So you could do that. But I didn't do that. I had more people that I worked with. And boy, there are a lot of stories, but in a lot of ways I came through and I did all right,
Yeah.
still got my life.
Yeah. That's the truth. We had another question from another uh, viewer, and her question was, how do you, in being on the road and whatnot, how do you have a routine that helps you to stay in shape vocally, but be able to be strong enough to get through your tours or get through just dealing with everything and anything going on, keeping your voice in shape?
Well, it took me a long time to build, but I have a group of people now that are around me. My tour manager is like really wonderful. He understands, what I need to be able to. And it's not to say that, this isn't, it's just someone who, excuse me, someone who is conscious of what it is that I need. And so I've been with Paul Booth, has been with me for some time, but he understands that I need rest. I need certain things, and we're doing these like crazy tours, and I mean, I always tell people they pay us to travel, because the shows are free, because touring is a bitch, but he tries to take that thing off of it. And when I have these wonderful itineraries and I can look at them and then I can see how I have to pace myself. And I do all kind of little funny things, like I'll put all the weather on my phone for all the different places we're going, and when we finish I take them off. So that means that it's getting something that measures how I have to keep it together. And I always see myself at the end of the tour. I always see the end. So it's like improvising. You always know where you're going. So that's the one thing. And then, as I said earlier, just trying to be around people that are, you know, cool, just easy to, you know, and everybody has their way, and that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, we have to agree that at this time we're gonna leave on time. At this time we have to be here and do that, and you know, we'll go from there, and be respectful on stage.
Right.
And another thing that I do is I like um, fellowship. So because I grew up around a table of people that told stories and just laughed, and everything just happened around the kitchen table. So it's important for me that we have dinner together. That makes a difference. So that there's some kind of connection before we walk on the stage. And then in terms of my voice, it's how I deal in like there'll be days sometimes and they'll tell you that I don't even speak, because it's like, okay, we're going, and I try not to do more than 3 shows in a row. But sometimes I have to do 4. And and so that means that there has to be some peace and quiet. There has to be naps. There has to be lots of water. There has to be all of this kind of stuff. There has to be steaming. And there has to be, when I do my vocal exercise, warm up my voice is usually around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, way before the show.
Mm,
And then I have to eat a little something, not a lot. And then when I get on stage, generally the first song is where I see where I am, you
mm,
know.
yeah,
So I improvise all the time on the very first song,
yeah.
you
There's something
know.
powerful about being able to do that on that first song, picking that just right song to gauge and like, okay, where
Right.
am I gonna go? How's the audience feeling? How am I?
How's my band? How's the room sounding?
Yeah,
What's the energy? All of that. Yeah.
yeah, everything. Yep, that's it. This person asks, do you feel that how you carry yourself and how you dress is important to how you're viewed as an artist and a person?
Well, I don't know about through this COVID stuff, because
Ah!
I've been I've been living in hoodies and I'm like really loving it. But I mean, you want to carry yourself with some sort of pride, and that doesn't mean a suit. It means whatever makes you feel comfortable and clear. you know um I'm not, everybody dresses different, and people be looking cute. But and also how you deal with people is very, very important. You want to be able to be as clear as possible from the very beginning, because a lot of times that just kind of sets the place. It's like, okay, they know who they're dealing with.
Right.
And authority doesn't mean gruffness. Authority just means clarity more than anything, about what it is that you will do, won't do, or what have you.
Yeah.
And then people get to, then from there you build relationships. And I always want to tell people, some of the really great relationships that I have, working stages, especially festivals and stuff, are the relationships with the people that are doing all the production behind stage.
Yeah.
They're very, very important. They are just, they make it right, they keep it right. And I think that you have to, when you're dealing with your sound engineer backstage, if somebody's doing monitors or whatever, be respectful.
Yeah.
to the people that are working around you.
Absolutely. It's funny you saying that because I know for even for myself and some of my other friends that I talk with that are artists, it was kind of hard in the beginning figuring out how do I want people to see who I am and how I present myself because on one end it's like you said you want to present yourself as I do respect myself and I also want you to respect me, but then also at the same time I don't want to compromise you not listening for what I'm presenting because of what you see that balance of being able to I want to be heard but I also want to be respected but I also want to be able to
Right.
be
And you also want to pay attention to your own intuition.
right.
Because if your intuition says something is funky around here, it's probably right. you know so I'm very, very, I use that a lot. I sit back, listen, look, and see how to, because not every place is the same, not every promoter, not every club owner is the same, and you have to figure out what you're dealing with,
Very,
and then decide which number you, I can go from 1 to 10, and I like to stay around 3, because it's peaceful. But when 10 comes out, it's a bitch, you know. So I try to, keep it. It's like, okay, I'm here, and I'm a slow burn. I don't really go really, really fast unless it's necessary. But I will go in bigger. Like if I'm a 3 and you coming off of some stuff, I might jump to 5,
right.
and I might from there jump to 9, and you don't want to hear 11,
Mm,
because that's like, and I haven't ever had to really do that a lot, but you just need to know how you deal with stuff.
yeah.
And yeah,
Charnay asked, how do you handle it when it's not right? That's the truth.
deal with it very
Yeah.
in the face, right here, right now, and that happens, you know, because my first thing is to appeal to your consciousness, because this is not right, but if I see that that's not where you're going, then I have to use other methods.
Right. We have one question. This is actually from a friend who's watching it right now, Jackie. Hi, Jackie. Her question to you is of the obstacles you faced when you first began your career, what was one of the biggest issues you faced that wasn't discussed much that artists should still be wary about today?
Money, the money, you need to be very, very conscious about how you're getting paid, what's happening. And I mean, just like what you can ask for, what is around you, how to set you know, a bar for yourself, like, okay, if you, so that they know when they're coming, this is what they're going to have to deal with. I mean, you have to just really, really be very clear and very well, very much into how you're being paid, what you're being paid for, all of these kind of things. Money is always the thing. It can mess up everything. So you have to, money is the big thing, you know. And a lot of times, like as artists, like it's funny because for me, I the business I have to keep straight, but that's not why I do this. I don't do it for the money. I do it for the enjoyment and the love and what it is that I have to give. But I also know that in that area of money, there is a respect factor. And so you can't, I can't, just be kumbaya with you. We have to, that's why I always say that I like to have everything very clear, to the point, and this is how we're going to deal. Then we're going to all have a good time. So
Right.
that that there was a reason why uh, Aretha Franklin carried her purse on stage.
And Nina Simone.
Um, I want to say this, like in the film that they just did with the Cynthia Erivo, they made mention of a concert that happened to her in Denver, Colorado. And I happened to be at that concert with my sister, and it was at Red Rocks Amphitheater. And Aretha, and it was like, I was like, wow, this is so true. I'll never forget that day. The band came on, everybody was ready, and it was late and we didn't understand. And they kept playing the beginning. They kept doing this music over and over and over again. Finally, she walked out to the side of the stage and she said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to sing for you tonight, but this man just won't give me my money. And two like bodyguard looking cats like pulled her off the stage, and she was on the side. I mean, it was like she went limp, and literally they dragged her back to the side of the stage. And this festival at that time, I mean, this amphitheater at the time, you could bring your hibachi grill and blankets, and the way they had it set up, you could do all of that. Them people burnt that place down. That night, it got burned down. I'll never forget running from bottles, and it's like 12,000 people in this place, packed. People are running, bushes on fire, afros on fire, people trying to, tear up, the piano. I mean, tow up the piano with microphones. I mean, just a riot ensued. And it was, the biggest thing was because of how she was so disrespected, the way that they pulled her off the stage. People were not having it. So I thought, I know that story. I was there.
Wow, that must have been fun
Yeah.
watch and witness. Wow. And it's crazy to think about what so many artists went through. Like we see all the stuff that looks great and sounds great, but the fact that to get from your bed to the stage and everything that's involved, and then the last part to be able to go home and take care of your family and have to fight
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and that's why the money is, you have to, it's your livelihood.
Yeah.
Even though you have so much joy and freedom, and it's like it's amazing what happens on stage, but it is your livelihood, and you have to be respectful of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Did you ever get to meet her?
Aretha?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, what was she like?
The first time, it was so funny, Aretha like clothes. The first time I met her, we were doing this thing at the White House. It was actually when the Thelonious Monk Institute was happening. And we were doing this thing at the White House. I was there rehearsing with Clark Terry.
Oh my God.
And she was sitting over somewhere. There was a whole bunch of artists, and she just happened to be there, and her singers and everybody was there. And one of the singers came over and said, Miss Franklin would like to meet you. I was like, whoa, so this is great. So I go over there, and I say, I'm like in awe, of course. I'm like, Miss Franklin, oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. And she's looking me up and down and sideways and stuff. And she's like, okay.
Oh
That
my
was the
God.
first time. She's like, okay. I was like, okay. The queen just summons me, and then she just told me to leave. So we had a laugh about that. That was so funny. And then I came back again later, and they did a tribute to her, and I rewrote the words to um uh Natural Woman, that it ended up being my story of her. And so people, as they caught on to it, she was sitting like on the dais in the back of the audience. And then, when everybody said, then at the last minute, right before we went on stage, I said, you guys, you're going to sing Hail to the Queen, Hail to the Queen, Hail to the Queen, a phenomenal woman. That's what you're going to say, instead of You Make Me Feel. And so when people started in the audience to catch on to it, by the time we got to Hail to the Queen, the audience turned around to her, and people had their arms up in the air, going, Hail to the Queen, And I mean, it was just one of those incredible moments. So I have a picture with her, and she looked at me and she said, you got me that time.
Wow.
And we didn't have many words, but
Wow.
she was true royalty.
Wow, I'm just trying to imagine that in my head because that's like the queen meeting the queen. It's like,
Girl, no, not in her court. I was just, somebody who just loved her and, respected her. And, she was a, trailblazer. She did a lot of amazing things and
yeah,
continued to, be substantial throughout her entire life. Really powerful.
it's really powerful. But I'm so grateful that people like her and people like you exist for us to be able to appreciate because it just sets such a high standard and example for so many of us to just aspire to. And I just want to say on behalf of myself and I know everybody else out there listening, thank you for just being who you are, Miss Diane.
Oh, thank you. And thank you guys. I met Charlene when she was a little girl, and, seeing you at the, what was it, the Columbus Circle that time, I was like, who is this girl up here killing it, And,
I
you
was
know,
kind of heart attack seeing you.
I was like, what? I was on my good shopping day. I was like, I'm standing right here,
Oh,
And but I really, really love that there's this opportunity to talk to you guys because there's a lot of new wonderful things going on out there and you guys are doing it. And I just feel like I have some sort of reach, because of being able to be in touch with all of you guys. So you guys inspire me greatly. You just don't even know, just out there, doing stuff unapologetically and killing it. So thank you.
oh, thank you. It's an honor. I know we're running out of time, but real quick, if you could leave some nuggets of wisdom for our young lioness musicians out there listening, what would you say?
Well, one of the things that I always say is that once again, there's nobody in the world like you. You learn from people that came before. But one of the things, you can be anything you want to be, but you can't be me. So, and I can't be you. So take what it is that you have and you refine it, you define it and respect it. That's the most important thing, to respect and protect what your gift is and continue to flourish and grow. Do it for love, do it for passion, do it for joy.
Thank you so much, Miss Diane. Everybody, please give a big virtual clap
Oh,
for the queen.
well, I'm glad that we got the Zoom thing and everything together, that, we had some Zoom difficulties, but we got it together. We figured it out. We improvised.
That's right.
So thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate you and
Oh,
love you.
thank you
Mhm.
so much. I love you too. Can't wait to see you. Everybody out there listening, thank you so much for joining us today for the Haven Hang. If you love this episode and you want to see more, just subscribe to the mailing list at www.camillethurman.com/the Haven Hang. This is open to all lionesses, mama lionesses too,
Woo!
educators. This is an opportunity for young women musicians to just get some support on their journey and to hear it straight from the pros. The next one's going to be April 20th. I look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe and take care.
Get your roar on. Take care.
Thank you so much, Dianne.
Thank you. I really appreciated that. That was wonderful. I
Oh,
enjoyed it. I needed it too on this. Well, the rain has stopped, but it's coming back again. But I enjoyed all of that. Thank you for everything. This is a wonderful platform. Congratulations.
thank you. I'm hoping it'll keep growing and keep it going.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, you got my number. If you need me, you, Sharonay, y'all call me. You know how to get me.
Oh, we definitely will. And I'm loving those plants back there.
Yeah, this is my other part of my family. These are my